Ta-da! Finally, we get to celebrate. Well, it's taken us a little while to get around to it, but I have been so eager to sit down and really celebrate with each of you. Well, 100K, what are we celebrating? 100K, what is that anyway? I mean, it's a number. 100,000. Well, for me, 100,000 is 1 and 1 and 1, and each and every one is an individual. And all of those individuals together make a community. And so today, for me, this is a celebration not of my having achieved a certain number on my channel, but it's a celebration of the community that makes up this beautiful place that we all enjoy spending time. And you remember my surprise at the warmth of this community near the beginning. Well, over the course of time, my appreciation for you has developed in two ways. One is the privilege of getting acquainted and making contact with so many people who we could say were in an in-person part of the development of this field of music, and all the experiences that you bring to the table, that you bring and you share with me, with us, your knowledge and the wonderful stories. And it's such an enjoyable exchange and interchange. The other way is, well, the other way around. The knowing that you also are able to experience a fresh view, a fresh experience of this music that you love, that you have known for so long, that you are able to experience it anew through my journey into it for the first time. And so I really appreciate both of these aspects of this community here and this, what is the Virgin Rock channel, and all the individuals who have gathered together around and within it. You know, as I'm reading through the comments on the channel, the different comments on different videos, I can't say that I read every single comment anymore, but I try to read as many as I can. And sometimes I'm on my phone doing something with the baby, or, you know, just catching a minute here or there, and I check the comments and I'm scrolling through. And sometimes I find myself taking screenshots of certain comments that I want to remember, or ideas or bits of information that you share, and somehow it makes a link to something that, you know, I want to explore later. So I have this whole collection of screenshots in my photos now, which I go back to and dig through along the way whenever I have the time to explore that. I mean, things that you say, whether it's a story you tell, you went to a live concert by some artist that I'm getting to know now, or your recollections of the first album that you bought, or the first musical recollections that you had as a child, or something memorable as a teenager or in college, or all the different things that you share, or your musical knowledge, the details of this band or that musician or this instrument or that type of music, and all of those wonderful things that you share here. I mean, I'm soaking it up, and I'm loving every moment of it, and I'm appreciating each one of you who brings and offers this. Or, you know, there are the other comments saying, you know, Amy, you've just changed my perspective of this piece, or I've known this piece for years or practically my whole life, and now suddenly I'm hearing it like it's brand new. And I sit back and I think, that is so cool. That is so nice that somehow because of my ignorance, we could say, of this music, this genre, and my stepping into it with fresh eyes, new eyes, as well as, of course, my musical experience from the classical background, somehow I am able to bring something to share here which is meaningful and special for you as well. And so all of this interchange and the dynamics of it, the sharing, the giving, the taking, even the humility of it, it's such a beautiful place, and it means so much to me that there are so many people like this which have gathered here from all around the world, truly all around the world. And somehow we now have these connections, these little strands connecting us from in so many different places. I understand that some of you even watch with subtitles because English is not enough of a familiar language for you to follow my ordinary speaking. And I'm thinking, we're even breaking some language barriers because, well, look at this. Music is the international language, isn't it? So it's just a lovely, lovely experience for me all around. And, well, we've been waiting for this moment as a kind of good excuse to share some music, some thoughts, some memories, some funny moments with you all as a way of celebrating this and perhaps sharing a bit more of myself with you as well and ourselves with you. So let's just start with the beginning. I've promised several times along this past year to show you what I call my harp forest, and that's in my teaching studio, and I've promised that several times, so let's go there. Welcome to my teaching studio. This is one corner of it, and I'll try to take you a little tour around, but we'll start here. This is one of my bookshelves, and I won't show off every single bookshelf, but I guess this is the one I use the most because it has all my everyday, every week standard teaching materials for my students, and I try to keep it in relatively decent order so that I don't get lost when I have to go find something quickly. And then, of course, we start moving to the harps. And I've mentioned several times before, I have quite a forest of harps. Well, you get to see some of them now. Different sizes, different numbers of strings. Several of these were made by my father. This one was. And 4 over here were. You can see a couple baby harps up on the top shelf there, which I use for the little kids because I start them as young as 4 years old, and some 4-year-olds are quite petite. And it's a lot of fun. I love starting groups of students, young students, and so I'll pull all these harps down and have 6 or 10 or sometimes even more all sitting on the floor, each with a harp in their lap, practicing their motions and getting a little harp orchestra going on. And those group beginner classes there's something incredibly special about them, even before we get into the really significant performance repertoire, which comes a number of years down the road. Well, harps are different. There are different kinds of harps, I could say. Little details, kind of like there are different kinds of guitars or keyboards or whatever. One of the big differences is how do we get our black notes, the sharps and flats. All of these are not pedal harps. They are lever harps, or a few of them don't even have any levers at all, and you just have to tune each pin depending on what you want. But a lever harp, you can raise a lever, and by doing so it raises the string a half step, a semitone, and that gives us a little more flexibility than if we were stuck with a strict diatonic tuning and no options. Well, maybe this is a good time to share a little story from my student days. I remember as a student, well, each of us have our own challenges to face as students. And one of my challenges was that I was too much of a perfectionist. I had this ridiculous idea that somehow I needed to do every single note so perfectly. And if I didn't, somehow I was an embarrassment to my teachers. Don't ask me how I got that idea because my teachers did not give it to me. But anyway, I came up with that idea and I took it very seriously. I remember my first public performance. It was a student recital. I was relatively beginner. I had a nice little piece to play and I have to say now, from my perspective, years down the road, I did a fairly decent job of it. But back then, well, you see, I missed one note. My finger just got a little bit off. It slipped off the string and I missed one note. Of course, I knew better than to stop. I finished the piece. Afterwards, all the other students finished theirs, and after the program, it was time for everyone to congratulate the performers and stuff. But I was too upset. I thought that I had ruined the entire evening. I thought that I had done a great injustice to the composer of the piece and made my teachers look horrible and embarrassed my family. And like I said, nobody gave me these ideas. It was just my personal attitude at the time and my desire to do the best I could. And I guess I took it a little too seriously. So, because I missed one note, I ended up in the bathroom crying bitterly, and my teacher found me there. And she gave me a tissue and said, dry your face and come out and greet everybody. And you did a fabulous job. Of course, I didn't believe her. But anyway, that was my first performance and I thought it went horribly. Now looking back, I have to say that was a really good experience for me as a student because it helped me to find a little bit of balance in this whole striving for perfection and at the same time understanding that it's not about a perfect note. It's about what we convey to the audience. And if we're so proud about our perfection, then we've missed the point. Anyway, fast forward quite a few years. Well, for this, let me take you to the other side of the studio. I have a few things to show you there, and then I'll tell you another story some years down the road from that one. And here's what I call the piano corner, but as you can see, more harps. Well, these harps are a bit different. They are made by a company called Derwent Harps, and I ordered them from the UK. I love them because they are such interesting colors. Nice size for medium-sized kids as well as beginner adults. And I even like them for just grabbing up and giving a quick demo because they're lightweight and simple. And these don't even have levers, but they're just great for, you know, quick little demo sort of thing. And I don't have all the colors, but they come in other colors too. They have purple and yellow and natural. So anyway, fun. And this is the piano that I spend a lot of my time sitting next to and working with students. Someday it's my dream to have a grand piano, but I don't have space in this studio for it. I will someday, hopefully. I do have access to a grand piano. And so if I have an advanced student who's preparing for a performance or exam, then we go meet at a different location for that kind of work. Now, I told you I would tell you another story. If you look up here, you see all my diplomas and certificates that I have earned through the years as a student. Different ones, different levels. They are all from the Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music, which is a British-based exam board. And so they are different, they have different names than your typical bachelor and master's degrees in the US, but they're just as legit. And this big one at the top, I have a story about. So this big one at the top Well, I've never been one to really focus on the letters behind the name so much. They were professional goals for me, but I don't really talk about them that much. So it even feels a bit weird to be standing here talking about them right now. But I have piano teaching, harp teaching, piano performance, harp performance, different levels, different degrees. The one at the top, I guess I am actually a bit proud about because of a little surprise situation that came up the day before the exam, the evening before the exam, and my exam was in the morning. Well, this is equivalent to a master's degree in harp performance. And of course you have to write a whole research paper, dissertation type thing, and you have to prepare a performance, and it's a pretty significant undertaking. And my exam was scheduled first thing in the morning, and one of the pieces that I was preparing to perform was a kind of my research project, and for that I had to hire some extra musicians to accompany me. It was an ensemble project, and so I had a specialist organist who specialized in certain types of historical performance, and I had a specialist cellist, and I had hired them and paid for them to come rehearse with me, and I was feeling pretty good and pretty prepared. And of course a bit nervous, but I had done the work. We were to meet that night, and we had 1 hour. I had paid 1 hour to rehearse with them. And we sat down, went through the preliminary greetings, meetings, checked our tunings, sat down. I played about the first half page of the music, and something was off. And I was confused. I didn't know what, but something was not sounding good. And I said, I had to stop them. I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, but can we start from the beginning again? Well, being a master's level performance degree, that's kind of an embarrassing thing to do when you're dealing with other professional musicians. I mean, you really don't want to stop and say, I messed up, let's go back to the beginning. It's bad. But I had to do it. So, start back at the beginning, get to the same point in the music, and something is so bad. I stopped again. I said, I'm sorry, I have no clue what's happening. But can you give me just a minute to check out this section? I played through it on my own. Oh my goodness, something is wrong. I checked my pedals because the harp has 7 pedals for your sharps and flats, your black notes. Everything's set right. I'm playing all the right notes. I back up a little bit. Oh my goodness. One of the strings is not changing pitch when I move the pedal. In that first half page of the very beginning of our rehearsal, I had a pedal rod break, which is a connecting piece of equipment inside the harp, which meant that I had no access to the notes I needed on the harp, and there was no way around it. My harp was broken. And my exam is the next morning. Well, something about harps. They're not standard keys like piano. Every harp has its own string spacing, its own string tension, its own angles of strings, and so you really get comfortable with your own instrument. And it's a bit of a challenge to adapt to another one, and any performer would really like to have several hours working on a harp, at least, if not a day, before having to do a high-level performance. Here I am. I'm supposed to be rehearsing. What a mess. I called my teacher. She was at another location conducting other events. I told her what was happening. She managed to round up another harp for me from another student and bring it down. And my accompanying musicians were gracious enough to wait. And we ended up spending a couple extra hours there till we managed to run through things. But I was really rattled. I went to my hotel that night with the harp, and I had planned to get a good early night of sleep, but instead I sat up getting familiar with this strange instrument, which behaved much differently from mine. Got myself up the next morning, and I just had to face it and say, well, this is it. This is a test of your abilities to function in a real performance stressful situation. Fortunately, I survived. I have the paper to prove it, and I will never forget the experience. I felt so good about being able to adapt and function well enough in that situation. And it all started with that failed performance, my failed first performance, where my teacher just said, brush the tears off, go out, and be gracious to the ones who came to support you. And, well, I lived to tell the story. As long as we're on the topic of fun stories and memories and recollections, well, I have a few. Actually, Vlad has collected a few of our past year with Virgin Rock, and for that, let's go back to the Virgin Rock studio. Well, if you think that those two stories were funny or memorable, wait until you see some of these. I obviously, in my professional life, I have quite a bit of performing experience now, and you know, I think every performing musician has a good box full of stories to tell, and you know, I could tell more, but I want to focus on the community here, the channel here. So Vlad has collected, well, having shot nearly 300 videos for this channel now, you can imagine that we've had plenty of blooper moments, and he's collected some of them and saved them just especially to share at a particular moment, and it seems like this is a good time. So let's start with the beginning. Long story short, I accepted the challenge to dive into wrong music. Long story short, I accepted the challenge to dive into wrong music. Did I start wrong there? Probably so. I promise I don't think that's not my opinion of rock music. Anyway, you know, when you're talking a lot and sitting in front of the camera or even off camera, you're talking and you're going to mix up words from time to time. At least I do. Sometimes, especially if I'm tired, if I'm recording at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like my mouth is just doing its own thing, and you know, it's a bit difficult to get it to go where I want it to go. So here are some of those funny little confused moments, and feel free to laugh. They are here for you, for your enjoyment. So here we go. Let's trace blah, 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 blah. Remember the opening scene as the camera is rolling down the Also, if you want to receive notifications when I post new content, click the title. Makes me think a bit of Prokofiev's satirical opera. This song is recorded in the key of B flat. No, not B flat. Why am I saying B flat? During that performance, Lennon told the audience, will the people in the cheaper sheets. And while this scene rolls on the screen, the song asks, the first one will tack kind of lost in the past, reverting to childhood. That's my watch. And many king queen. Let's try this again. And then, as if it's not difficult enough to try to keep my speech organized, check out my hands. So this is a 3-part song. I need to hold up 3 fingers instead of 4. There is 3. And sometimes I even run into some difficulties when I'm reading the text, like this trap, which jumped out at me. It says here, if I fell was written. I don't think we want to sound like rednecks. And then bug season came. Well, you know, sometimes I see an article about how the insect population is collapsing around the world and that sort of thing. But it seems like here in Tennessee, we still have a lot of bugs. And with it, even a bit more fun. That's a bug design to achieve the song's purpose. I believe I have a bug on my forehead.
Oh, man.
And then Liesel. Of course, when she came along, everything changed. And you might remember this very first one because some of you picked up her hiccups even on the finished video. She was so tiny then. She was just, I don't know, I don't remember how old she was, but just a few weeks old or something. And we had her in a little basket sitting beside me, just off the camera view, but right there. And what could we do? Well, Vlad manages to work his editing magic, and most of these little moments end up being things that we just enjoy so much ourselves. But we'd like to share some with you too. And for those of you who are about my age and younger and maybe not so familiar with the Beatles music, I invite you. It's so loud, it's going to be picked up.
That's how it is.
Okay, we'll have to explain though. Well, you know, they say that as soon as you feel like your baby has settled into a routine, everything changes. And I can say that that is true, at least for Liesel. Because just when I think I have her in a good nap routine and we have a good hour or two to record, well, a few days later, that's all out the window and we're back to figuring out, when does she want to sleep really? Or does she even want to sleep? And lately, actually, we have taken to recording at night because then we know that when she goes to sleep, she's going to sleep for a good solid several hours before waking up again. And it gives us a little bit of peace and quiet where we can focus and I can just relax and pay attention to the music in front of me instead of always keeping my ears open. Is that the baby? Oh, she's awake. I gotta run. And it's incredibly difficult to be in the middle of a first listen and have to jump up and run to take care of the baby. And then some minutes, sometimes even some hours later, come back and try to remember, how much did I hear? Of course, we still have it at the stopping point, but sometimes I have to go back and just refresh what I heard and remind myself, okay, here we are. Now the rest of it is going to be fresh, and the continuity is a bit of a challenge. So I really try to avoid those situations, and well, nighttime seems to be the best option at the moment. Maybe eventually she will settle into yet another nap time habit and I'll do it in the daytime. But for now, we enjoy the nights. Is she kind of sleepy still? Maybe if I nurse her, she might fall back asleep. Hello there, little girl. Okay. She's awake. She's awake, she's awake, she's awake. Members' drug and alcohol abuse issues, lawsuits, and public feuds with other artists. Sounds rather dramatic. That's Liesel. I'll be back.
What are you doing? Oh, I see. Okay, so if anyone wonders, how are we sometimes doing this when Liesel just doesn't want to sleep? But here, now you will know.
Ready? And as if these kinds of interruptions aren't enough to keep us on our toes, how about when everything comes crashing down? I mean, literally. When this happened, I had a front row seat.
Rolling. So
Okay.
you say okay.
Well, as I've mentioned a few times, Vlad has a magic touch when it comes to editing and solving editing difficulties. But he goes through a lot of tribulation sometimes, let's just say. And to add to it, as I've already told you once or twice, sometimes I get totally confused with these cameras in front of me. Which one? This one? This one? This one? Where am I supposed to be looking anyway? Because I'm at the harp, I'm here, I'm at the piano. Each one has a camera and an angle. I'm kind of glad that I'm not a, I don't know, actor or something, because I'd be totally lost. I really would. I think I'll stick with the music. Which camera turn again? Now, those of you who are parents, you know how it is when your child comes and gets in your way or accidentally interferes with something and you kind of crash into him or her, or they crash into you. Well, I do have a little girl, but longer than having had a little girl, and she's kind of too small to be crashing into me yet. I have a harp. And the harp is kind of like a child in some ways. As if cameras aren't enough to worry about. What about when this happens? Oh dear, that did not work. Oh dear, that did not work. Now back to mixing up my words. I promise, I didn't mean to say this, but for some reason, that's how it came out. To take a completely different artist, let's take Freddie Mercury and put him. To take a completely different artist, let's take Freddie Mercury and put him. And sometimes, well, there have been a few songs along this journey that presented some, let's say, unique challenges, even for me as a musician. I have no clue what I'm going to say about the music. Yeah. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm struggling. I'm really struggling because it's a commercial piece of cheese. It's a commercial piece of cheese. What is it? Mozzarella? No, not mozzarella. It's not meaty enough for that. It's... Now, don't ask me which song that was because I won't tell you. You can guess for the rest of your life. Now, I have one more little camera moment to show you, but before I do that, I want to show you Vlad's hat collection. First, we just have a simple brown, basically a regular little hat, but he really likes the fabric, so it's part of his collection. The second one is his classic Irish hat. I have to say it looks pretty good on him. The third one is his Australian hat. And, well, it does make him look a bit Australian. The fourth one is his absolute favorite. It's an English bowler hat, and he wears it whenever he wants to really make a statement. This fifth one is what he calls the Freddy hat. Perhaps you can guess why. And the sixth one? Well, this one he calls the heavy metal hat. And one day he photobombed me in the middle of my recording.
This should be my recording hat.
Sure.
I meant this.
And he likes to try styling them on this skull to save himself from going to look in the mirror. Well, this one, of course, it suits because it has some little miniature skulls along the edge. Really quite heavy metal, wouldn't you say? And since we're having fun with favorites at the moment, well, here's another one. This is truly Liesel's favorite toy. Well, personally, I'm really hoping that she'll choose something other than the drums, because I like the idea of her maybe becoming a harpist or something like that. But, you know, if she ends up choosing the drums for real, she'll be free to do it. Don't worry. I won't get in her way. But meanwhile, I will make sure that she will see enough of this and maybe try out some other instruments as well, so that when it comes time for her to choose her passion, if an instrument becomes her passion, then she will have a broad experience and she'll be able to truly choose what is the most personally attractive to her. Now, of course, this celebration moment has to have music in it, and I've decided to share a couple pieces on the harp. One from the rock repertoire and one from the classical repertoire, but with a twist. Because the rock piece I have chosen to play for you today actually has a lot of classical elements. It closely resembles the classical style, and if I were listening to it not knowing who wrote it or where it came from, I would certainly place it in the classical field rather than the rock. Well, the classical one, let me know what you think. I've decided to play the rock piece first, and it needs no introduction. Now, what I want to know is if there is anybody out there who didn't like it. Okay? Now, the outfit discussion started from a sort of a joke one of my followers made. I don't know if you remember. Some comment about, in fact, more than one follower made a similar comment saying, "Do you need some more clothes? Are you in need of clothes? It looks like every single video has been shot on the same Saturday afternoon. And I decided to pick it up and have some fun with it. And we did, right? Well, now I have a bit of time, and maybe it's a good time for me to, show some other options. And maybe you'll let me know, do you have another favorite? Of course, this one I suppose I should entitle the Virgin Rock outfit. This is the concert black, of course. Well, actually, I have half a closet full of concert black, so this is just a sample. And, well, I feel like I should go on stage now. This is going to be entitled the Cozy Winter outfit, and actually some of you might remember it from last winter when I wore it. It was one of the few outfits that I had in my closet that I could wear when I was pregnant, so I wore it a few times on camera. But it is quite comfortable. And since we are naming seasons, let's call this one the early autumn outfit. Well, a little detail about me, I have to say that I have always loved intense, bright red. And I have been known to wear some pretty powerfully red outfits through the years. And since I'm a musician and we are a musical community, I think I will call this the Morning Sonata. What do you think? And this is the traditional Romanian ie, that's how they call it. And it can be this or this. Well, maybe I should stop here because this is about music and not clothes. And probably I've gotten enough mileage out of this joke already. Maybe some generous mileage. Now, as I've said before, this is a celebration of the wonderful community here at Virgin Rock. So, I decided to invite one of its members, someone who has been with me since practically the very beginning of my journey into rock music, someone who has a lot of experience with rock music, who was an eyewitness of the rise of many of the big names that I am just now discovering, who is very passionate and dedicated to music and to promoting good music, good art, and musical education. Of course, there are so many of you who fit this profile here in this community, who are at least equally knowledgeable and dedicated to music, and I truly hope that we will have enough time ahead of us that I will be able to sit down and talk personally with each of you in the future. But this time, it's going to be Lee Kennison as a sort of representative of the community and the kind of music lovers that gather here and the beautiful people it contains, because, well, since we couldn't do this celebration live, this was the best option we could think of. And I'm sure that even if not every single one of you, I think most of you will find your thoughts voiced in this conversation that we had. Well, hi Lee, it's nice to have a little bit of time to sit down and talk together. Nice, thanks for meeting with me.
Hey Amy, it's great to see you. This is the first time I think we've talked in person or in virtual person.
Yeah, so this feels like a real treat and kind of a get acquainted
great.
session. And one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you is, well, there are several reasons actually. First of all, you have been part of the community, one of the first, before there was even really any community on the channel. And I remember when you started commenting, and I was intrigued by your comments and fascinated and perhaps even a little bit intimidated sometimes, because you seemed to have this vast wealth of knowledge and anyway, but you have seen me from basically the very beginning all the way through until now, and since this is kind of a celebration moment, I thought that it would be kind of special to talk with somebody who not only has a lot of life experience with this music, but also who has watched me along the way in this past year plus a couple months, and just talk about the music and your perspectives, your views on how my journey has developed, and your thoughts about it.
Yeah, sure. First of all, probably the only reason it seems like I have vast knowledge is because you came into it without any knowledge at all. And so sometimes it could appear that maybe I know more than I do, but there's definitely people on the channel who know, a lot more about rock history, know a lot more details about the individual bands. And, I hold my own.
That's understandable, but I'm not saying that you are the authoritative expert, or that I somehow expect you to have everything exactly right. But I have always enjoyed your input. Not only yours, but yours is one of the ones that I have enjoyed, and so I kind of picked you out as an example of the kind of people that I really enjoy in this community, and that I feel like I'm learning from, and in a way also developing some relationship and connections with.
Right, exactly. No, and that's one of the things I love about your channel. But yeah, it's like I say, you've brought in such a diverse group of people. A lot of musicians, a lot of music enthusiasts in general, who are able to bring a lot of knowledge with them. And one of the things I like about your channel, and you said it in your more recent kind of channel overview video, is it's a place where we could both be teacher and student. And so
yes, and I love that about it too. I really do.
Yeah, and so you're such a great teacher, and you know that because everybody tells you what a great teacher you are in the comments, and that just shows you how much everybody appreciates and loves what you're doing, because you have such a incredible gift for breaking music down, and through the typical reaction mechanism that a lot of people are used to. They're also getting a real music education and a real music appreciation just through what you're showing on the channel. And it's like it's subtle and it's unobtrusive. So I mean, you're there with the score and you're showing these principles on the score for most people who can't read music. But now at least that won't seem so foreign to them anymore, because so many people are scared of written notation. And I think you're
right. And go ahead.
And you're helping to remove that fear.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, I don't expect everyone to suddenly become a music reader, but I think it's oftentimes exciting for somebody to see that, I can see the shape of the pitch that's traveling here, and I can see how what's on the paper, maybe I can't decode it myself, but if someone is there to help decode it, it kind of brings out different elements that I might have missed or might have thought of differently before, just because it's a visual aid. And I always like to tell my students, it is not the music itself, but it helps us to get into the music.
And I don't think anybody else, any other reaction channel does that. So that's a very unique thing to your channel.
Well, I remember at the beginning of the channel, the fact is, I had never watched a reaction channel before. I had never followed one. The concept of a reaction channel just didn't exist in my mind. I had never thought about it, never looked into it, and it's not something that I spent time doing. So I kind of went into it blind, and I didn't even know what I was going to do, except that I was going to explore this music that I know is such a beloved part of Vlad's life and history, and that he's so enthusiastic about, and he's so convinced that I'm going to enjoy getting into it. So, okay, And he says, why don't we make a channel out of it? And I said, whatever for? Because who's going to sit down and watch me listen to music for the first time? I mean, who does that? And he said, you'd be surprised. And I said, all right, then let's give it a try.
In your life,
so, go ahead.
I was going to say, your life has not been the same since.
I guess it never will be.
I'm sure you weren't expecting the kind of response that you received, and so all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is a thing. And now not only am I reacting and showing that I'm learning something about this music, but I'm having a pretty profound effect on a lot of people in helping them in their music appreciation, and showing your insights into the things, and just how you use your imagination and teaching us to be better listeners to the music. So
that is the kind of thing I love to do. I love to teach. That's the truth of the matter. I love it. And I love not teaching, well, obviously anybody who watches my channel will know, not teaching in a sit down, memorize the facts manner, but open the doors to the world manner. It's like walk in and see what we can discover. And when I realized that this was an opportunity for me to tap into that, and that people were enjoying and appreciating that, suddenly it became something I felt like I could really dig into, and not just for my benefit anymore, but for everyone's benefit. And it just became this very special give and take and sharing and
Exactly.
growing together. And I have to say that I've gotten quite attached to it.
Yes, and it shows. And I think that kind of went hand in hand just with the way your videos were, coming across, and the way you were presenting. The more relaxed you were, the more fun you were having with it. And
Right.
So it was like, all of a sudden, I think that realization, that connection that you started to have with the community, and start the realization of the impact that you were having, made you much more comfortable. You kind of remember how it was in the beginning. There was a lot of battling and fighting going on amongst the people, in the comments, particularly the, classic rock versus metal. And
It got pretty intense sometimes.
it got intense.
Yeah, right.
Gradually, over time, as people got to know you, and then as you drew more, I think, quality, commenters, people who were really interested in what you were doing, you saw such a transformation just within the community itself and within the comments, that there's so many, positive and encouraging comments, and, people are respectful to each other. And, that's kind of a unique thing a lot, on YouTube and the internet in general. And so.
Right. And one of the things that I love when I sit down and read through the comments on the channel is I love not just the decency and the respect that seems to emanate from the commenters and the general tone of conversations, but you mentioned it was positive and encouraging, and I love that, but I also love that it is not so in I could say a shallow manner, not just,
Right.
oh, this is so wonderful, or oh yay, you're so great, but actually, building up ideas and sharing actual information and conversations. And sometimes they do have a little bit of disagreement, and that's okay, because
Which is fine.
it's everybody having the opportunity to share their experience, which everyone comes from a different background, a different perspective, and has a different way of relating to the music. So I really love the depth of the conversation that happens there.
Yes, exactly. That's something that I have noted too. And in fact, I think I probably have made that very comment to you and Vlad within, my private messages that I send to you on Patreon. It's remarkable, the quality and the depth of the comments. There's nothing wrong with, quick and superficial, comments, just,
Of course.
because it's great to say, oh, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, sure.
Keep up the good work. That's great. But it's also nice to have.
That's That's fine, but it's nice to know that there's room and there's space and there's interest for people to dig deeper if they wish.
What was unusual about your channel, I'm subscribed to over 300 channels, if you could believe it.
Oh boy. Wow.
And so, this is where yours really stands out, is for whatever reason, so after like the first or second, third video, I was so emotionally invested in your channel and your vision and your journey. And it's like I took it on myself as it's like, okay, this is great. And so that probably was reflected in maybe becoming a little too overpassionate in some of my suggestions. I always, felt like one of your naughty students, one of the troublemakers in the class, and but then you got control of the class. You were the new teacher who came on the scene, and we were the rowdy students was going to see how far we could push the teacher, how much we could influence the teacher. And then you kind of just, over time, it's like, okay. And so that, at that time, like I said, the channel had a completely different atmosphere within the comments, it was a brand new channel, at that point.
Right,
so
of course.
Everybody was, kind of getting a sense of what it was all about. You kind of defy the odds a lot of times by going in depth, doing longer videos, even though, YouTube analytics will tell you, no, don't do that. People want short content, and that's just kind of a problem with our, society in general, is that we've, referred to as a TikTok generation. Everything is, very short clips, very, we're just getting bombarded with non-substantive, content all the time. And so what you brought is, very substantive content.
Right. And I guess there's a place for both. But I agree with you. It's very easy with all of the technology and the different feeds that come to us to kind of end up with this very scattered, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and never really take the time to dig into something. And so it's nice to be able to settle down and focus and really enjoy digging into something a little bit more, put some time and attention into it.
Which, and you're successful at it because the number of views you get per video is generally higher than channels that are, even larger than you. If you compare song to song, a reaction to the same song, you'll often have, a higher number of views. Now, granted,
I've never actually sat down to do comparisons because I just haven't.
You don't chase number, statistics, and stats.
I don't. I have noticed that's one thing that you are very good at following and keeping up with all of those.
It's kind of ironic, is because that's one of the things. I mean, I'm quoting a Ren line from High Ren. That's one of the things I kind of love about him, and I love about you. But the irony is, in a lot of my, private messages to you and Vlad, I'm like, if you do this, you'll get more views. If you do this, you'll, this is a way to help, grow your channel. And so, here I am, I'm the devil voice over on the other shoulder, saying, no, you do need to focus on, numbers, statistics, and stats, which you do not. I'm just trying to, from that, I mean, that perspective is important because the more views you get, the more people you're reaching. And so
true. There is that. Yeah.
But, it's like never lose the perspective of what you've already accomplished. 100,000 subscribers is amazing, and then
I really never imagined. I mean, those numbers weren't in my mind.
Right. And so, even if your channel were not to grow any more beyond this, but you still had the same level of engagement with your existing subscribers, you're still getting a lot of people watching your videos. You are being extremely successful, even if 2 years from now you're at the same level, because you always have to look at. It's easy for us to always be wanting to achieve the next thing, to get to the next level. But, never lose sight of what you already have.
okay, numbers, stats, whatever, they come, they go. How big the channel gets, I really don't care. You know, in some ways, I like seeing it grow, of course,
Sure,
because
of course you do.
I realize that what I am offering is something that somebody else is finding meaningful, finding beneficial, finding enjoyable, and I like that idea a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when it grows, I know that that is something that is being received well somewhere else. But on the other hand, it's not like I have some ambition of, oh, let's get to this many viewers or this many subscribers. It will grow as it grows.
You have the right perspective. One of the things we need to, be patient with as, members of your community is really realizing this takes a lot of time for both you and Vlad. And because you
It
are
does.
so thorough, you're only able to get out a few videos, a handful of videos per week. Some you're always getting
Right.
out at least 2 or 3. I'd say probably 3 is your probably typical minimum.
And I'm maxed out, at that point. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, wait, this is as many as I can fit into my life, my schedule, because of course I have other things in my life than just this channel, right? So
so
but
that
this channel has become a much bigger part of my life, I have to say that. And I'm not sorry for it, because I want to say that it's not about the channel, it's about the people there and the experience of connecting, interacting, growing, sharing, and there is a sense of community that, at least from my perspective, I get from interacting with the people who come to my channel and the premieres on the weekend. I enjoy those. I do. Being able to sit down and type in real time, chat with whoever shows up for that particular premiere, and sometimes the conversation gets humorous and sometimes it gets serious and sometimes it's just,
yeah,
average conversation, but it's nice, and I get to recognize names or handles, and personalities start to develop and come through in what's being said, and I form these images of these people all around the world in their own lives, and somehow I have the beautiful privilege of being able
Yep.
to have a connection with them, and to me that is incredibly special.
it is very special. It's special on both sides. I'm glad it's special for you, but it's special for us also. So it absolutely is beautiful, and that is one of the other key factors of why I think your channel is so great, because you do bring us together in kind of a common ground where we could come from all kinds of different philosophical and political backgrounds and different cultural backgrounds, and yet we all come around because of our love for music.
I always like to say the world isn't made in black and white. The world is in color.
Absolutely.
Color and 3D. So let's open our eyes and start checking it out, because it's just so great. And so, yeah.
And that's the type of thing
agree.
that I think that you're having a very positive impact on, just in the tone, again, of going back to the comments, and that people do show respect for each other. I mean, yeah, you're still going to find those examples where we don't. And there's times that I've had to go back and apologize because maybe I got too carried away on something. And so, but
We all have our moments. But
as long as we could try to show respect for the other, and then our difference is a lot of times, particularly around music, it can be a lot of fun just debate different topics and so forth, and just realize
Right.
it's all fun.
Yeah. Well, it's been a real pleasure to talk with you and spend a bit of time, and thank you for meeting with me, and I'm sure we'll get to meet again sometime, but let's celebrate this moment together, as all of us together.
Thank you very much. I feel the same. I really appreciate your taking the time to spend chatting. I mean,
So, Lee's voice, we could say, is, in a way, the voice of the community. And, well, we were discussing in this conversation crossing boundaries and meeting in other areas. And, well, this is maybe a good time for me to play my classical piece. But before I actually play it, I want to point out a few of its features so that you can keep your ears open for them and kind of navigate your way through it with me. Okay, I'm sitting here at my harp and, well, it's evening, it's kind of towards night actually, because I'm about to sit down and I'm sitting down. I'm about to record my classical piece that I have chosen to play for you. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about it. Well, first of all, it's a bit tricky to record for me right now because, first of all, it has to be incredibly still and quiet so that there's no background noise that the mic picks up. Secondly, I don't have what we like to call a harp mic. Harp is a notoriously difficult instrument to record well, and it requires specific, very expensive mics to give a professional quality recording. I don't have those, I can't afford those, so I'm simply using the mic that I use for my everyday recordings for this channel, and don't expect a professional quality recording sound because it's not, but I think you'll still be able to enjoy it. So I have chosen this piece of music from the classical repertoire, but I've chosen it specifically for you, my rocker friends. I've kept in mind who you are and the music that you love as I have gone through all my repertoire and thought about what would be interesting, what would be a different perspective of the harp than perhaps you've seen before, and at the same time enjoyable for you. I've selected this one. It's by Aram Khachaturian, and he was an Armenian composer of the 20th century. Now, the title of this piece is Oriental Dance. He composed it to include the imitation of an instrument, a percussion instrument called doira, which is specific to Central Asia. And it's a small handheld instrument with a small, kind of that type of sound. And you will see me tapping on the soundboard as part of the piece of music. That's one reason I thought this might be interesting for you to see. The harp actually being treated somewhat as a percussion instrument itself. And sometimes I tap down here, sometimes up here. And if you scan YouTube, you'll find some examples of the genuine doira. You can compare the sound and tell me how accurate I am. Well, there are some other features about this that you might find interesting. First of all, it is incredibly rhythmic. It does not have the typical ebb and flow melodic legato lines that we think of when we think of a lot of classical music. It makes use of an almost riff-like theme, and you will hear it repeated over and over and over again throughout the piece. It's fairly simple harmonically. It doesn't really rely on harmonic elements for its makeup. So it's interesting in multiple ways. It has some descending chromatic lines you'll hear. You'll also get to see some techniques, a variety of techniques on the harp other than the tapping. You will hear harmonics, which If I play this string, that's the normal tone, but if I go like this, that gives a different sound. That's a harmonic. You will hear me play with my nails. You will hear me play down by the soundboard. You will hear me play quite powerfully, and as well as some lush chords. So it packs a lot into a small space, and I do hope you enjoy it. I have chosen it especially for you, and it is my gift to you tonight. Now this, believe it or not, it's been sitting down there beside that light in the corner since we came back from Europe. And when we got home, we went to the mailbox and found this box in the pile of mail. But we didn't have time to shoot this video before now, and I wouldn't have opened it without you. So here is the special moment. I want to make sure this is able to be enjoyed by all of you. We will open the lid. Okay, there's a piece of paper. Seems to be a letter. Should I read it? Okay. Here's what it looks like. It says, "Do you remember your first subscriber?" I guess I do. Your 100th? Or your 1000th subscriber? Chances are you do. Yes, I do. And we know that you'll definitely remember your 100,000th subscriber. Oh yes, that happened when we were in Europe and we were sitting there updating the channel app on our phones, looking when is the 100,000th one going to roll over. Your fans may have found you while searching YouTube, learned about you through a friend, or maybe you showed up as a recommended video. No matter how they came to your channel, your audience stayed and their numbers increased because of you and the community you've built. We're proud to honor your impressive milestone of reaching 100,000 subscribers with the Silver Creator Award. Congratulations. We know that you have many more stories to share with your community, and we know your fans can't wait for you to amaze them even more with your commitment and creativity. I hope we have enough to deliver. So keep creating, keep building. We can't wait to see what you'll do next, and we're here to support you along the way. And who knows, when you reach your 1,000,000th subscriber, we may just write to you and ask, do you remember your 100,000th subscriber? Yours sincerely, Neil Mohan, YouTube CEO. Well, as I've said, it's all about you, the community. So, kind of echoing what I said when I was showing my certificates in the studio, I'm not one to really attach myself to certificates and letters behind the name. I'm more interested in the gift that they have, that they offer, that they allow me to offer. And so, let's keep building this beautiful community together. But, okay, let's dive into this. What else do we have here? Okay, some little, something that says congratulations. Okay, if your award was damaged, please contact so-and-so. Cover, let's get down to the award itself. Ha 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 ha. Let me hand the box to Vlad. And here it is. I should pull it out of the plastic. There you are, my beautiful community. Presented to Virgin Rock for passing 100,000 subscribers. And I am going to present it to you, my 100,000 subscribers, as a sort of commemoration of this moment together. Well, where are we going to hang it? On the wall? I guess Vlad has an idea. So, and he has some tools beside him here, so maybe we will do that. So what do you think? How does it look? I haven't seen it on the camera yet, so in a way you're seeing it before I am. Well, I know it's not front and center, but I guess I prefer it that way. I like having the instruments up front and you know it's there. You can see it, and probably you can see it better from this camera here, so when I'm at the piano maybe you'll catch more of it. But there we have it. And we have achieved this all together. What a great journey, and well, what great music. I mean, that's what we're all here for, right? And what a great community. Well, I guess it took 13 months for us to reach this 100,000 mark, and almost 300 videos into this journey. And here we have 100,000 music lovers all gathered together. I think it's beautiful. I keep saying that, and I'm going to keep saying it, probably for as long as this channel continues, which hopefully is going to be a long time. I want you to understand that I truly appreciate you. Well, let me also say thank you to YouTube for making such an experience possible for us all. If it weren't for YouTube, we couldn't be here. And again, thank you all for being part of it. I guess I want to close with Nietzsche's famous words. Without music, life would be a mistake. I'll see you next time.